Mr. President. Again, I rise in support of the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act as an opportunity for me and for those of us who support this to give voice to the unborn. I'm proud of my record with regard to supporting the sanctity of life. I'm proud of my 100% pro-life voting record by supporting legislation in the House and now here in the United States Senate. Just earlier this year, I reintroduced what's called the Child Custody Protection Act to prevent the transportation of minors across state lines for the purposes of eluding parental notification laws. This is a big deal in my state of Ohio. The legislation simply says that parents have the right to be involved in their kids' most important decisions, a view supported, by the way, by an overwhelming majority of Americans. Parental notification laws are a key to reducing the number of abortions in this country and should be supported. We should not allow parental notification laws to be circumvented. I understand that there are raw emotions that are evoked by these issues, and I know that there are fundamental disagreements on the issue of abortion. However, I would hope there are steps we could take to promote a culture of life. And I think passing the Child Custody Protection Act is certainly one of those. I hope that the Senate will take that legislation up soon so that we can indeed come together as a group and promote the sanctity of life. I think, by the way, another way to do this is to support the pain-capable legislation we'll talk about in a moment. Along with millions of other Americans, I have watched these deeply disturbing Planned Parenthood videos that were recently released. They graphically show that some at Planned Parenthood view the unborn as something to be exploited and not as precious life that deserves to be protected. Because of the shocking nature of these videos, congressional committees of jurisdiction are properly now investigating. Beyond that, I have called on the Obama administration to begin a criminal investigation into this matter to determine if employees of a federally funded organization have violated the law. These acts must not be tolerated. Last month, I co-sponsored and voted for legislation that would end federal funding for Planned Parenthood while ensuring that taxpayer dollars would continue to be offered to community health organizations that provide important health services to women across my state of Ohio and across America. By the way, there are 7 times more community health organizations in the state of Ohio than there are Planned Parenthood clinics. So this is an opportunity for us to shift that funding to where women can get the health care support that they need. These health care issues for women are a national priority that should continue to be. We need to strengthen women's health initiatives without having to fund Planned Parenthood from the paychecks of American workers. The pain-capable legislation that is currently being debated here on the floor, Mr. President, is really about science, and it's about advances in medical technology. Scientific evidence now tells us that at the age of 20 weeks post-fertilization, an unborn child can feel pain. It's time to recognize this fact and take the necessary steps to protect unborn children and welcome them to life. This legislation, I believe, is a very important part of that overall goal. I visited the neonatal units at the great children's hospitals in my home state of Ohio. I've seen the amazing work that's done there by our doctors and nurses and other medical professionals. It is incredible. I encourage all my colleagues to make visits in their own states. I've seen firsthand this amazing work. I've seen as they help babies who were born extremely premature come to life. It's inspirational to see what they're doing. These newborns represent the miracle of life, and it is our duty to make sure that they are protected. Fortunately, we have seen advances in neonatal care that have allowed these babies to survive and to live to their fullest potential. Just a few years ago, this was not necessarily the case. So these medical advances have been really exciting, and it's one reason it's so important that we pass this legislation. For as we continue to enhance our medical technologies, more and more people are able to see that we're not talking about unviable fetuses, but unborn children who could one day grow up and become part of our American family. As a result, increasingly, the American people believe that ending a child's life should be as rare as possible and that we should work together to reduce the number of abortions performed in this country. That's progress. The debate on this legislation is not just about morals or values or religious views. It's about protecting innocent life from a painful act that they do not deserve. We have a responsibility to protect unborn children and give them the chance to succeed. This legislation and this vote before us here tomorrow in the United States Senate is an opportunity to make that happen. Mr. President, the United States of America is one of only 7 countries in the world to provide and allow for elective abortions. after 20 weeks. Think about that. On that short list, by the way, are North Korea and China. What does that say about our national character if we know these unborn children are feeling excruciating pain, and yet we choose not to act? When our founders declared our independence, they wrote of certain unalienable truths endowed by our Creator. They said, among them, of course, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Life is the very first one. So let's stand together today and take a unified step toward protecting life. Mr. President, this is a common sense bill. It has the support of the American people. I urge my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to help provide a voice for those who cannot provide that voice for themselves, to take this important step toward holding up the sanctity of life and to pass this important legislation. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield back my time.